Welcome to the Explainer. Look, artificial intelligence is bringing a massive, rapid shift to education, right? I know it can feel a bit overwhelming, but today we're cutting straight through the anxiety. We're going to give you a super concise, highly structured look at the absolute key points you need to navigate this transition and completely shift your paradigm. So, here's the core question driving our Explainer today. How exactly can AI and human teachers integrate to create more effective and personalized learning environments? Because, spoiler alert, it's all about synergy, not substitution.
All right, let's jump right into section 1, Seeing the Invisible, Instruments of Knowledge.
Okay, let's dive into this. To really get AI, we have to look at Dr. Ram Haray's philosophy of science. Think of Realm 1 as surface reality, stuff we can just see and touch with our own human senses. But then there's Realm 2. These are things we can only perceive using scientific instruments. Think about a microscope, right? It reveals bacteria that absolutely exist, but without that specific instrument, we're completely blind to them. It simply expands human sight. Take the Kamiokande detector in Japan, for example. It was literally built to detect invisible subatomic particles called neutrinos. And you know what? AI algorithms are just like that. They are highly advanced Realm 2 instruments. They're built to detect patterns in massive, massive oceans of data that the human eye simply cannot perceive on its own. Professor Hare has this amazing quote. He says, "We built Kamiokande in order to see the invisible." And honestly, we absolutely need to reframe AI for educators in exactly this way. It's an instrument of perception, guys. It is not a human replacement. It's a tool that reveals invisible patterns in student learning and engagement.
Moving right along to section 2, The Ontological Divide, Diving into Deep Culture.
And this brilliantly illustrates our next point. To understand what actually makes us human, we have to dive below the surface. So, at the top of the iceberg is Realm 1, our observable behaviors. Just below the waterline is Realm 2, which includes our scientific instruments, like AI. But way down at the bottom, that's Realm 3, deep culture. We're talking about the core worldviews, mental models, and spiritual foundations that guide human interpretation. And here's the kicker. AI simply cannot touch Realm 3.
So this creates a pretty stark divide, right? On one side, you have AI. It is driven entirely by code and capable only of generative imitation. But on the other side, humanity. We carry spirit and consciousness, and we're capable of true original creation. It's crucial to remember that AI is a created tool, while humanity is the image of the creator.
Now, what's really interesting about this mapping is how clear it makes things. On the left side, the AI matrix is human-engineered and completely amoral. It executes tasks, sure, but totally devoid of consciousness. On the right, the human sphere is endowed with personhood, relational capacity, and moral responsibility. Basically, AI executes, humans relate and take responsibility. Let's move on and see how this builds into what we call the paradigm of integrated ability. When we integrate deeply human abilities like empathy and ethical judgment with AI's massive data processing power, magic happens. The fundamental human traits of the teacher are actually amplified by the AI's processing capabilities. Which brings us to section 3, Guardians of Deep Thought, the human mandate. So the crucial point here is looking at the base versus the peak. That gray base, it represents lower order thinking, rote memorization, surface level retrieval, things like that. By letting AI automate that base, human teachers can ascend to the peak, which is the human mandate. The goal completely shifts from just cramming knowledge to cultivating collective intelligence. Teachers literally become the guardians of higher order thinking.
Now you might be wondering, why does this philosophical deep dive matter in a real classroom? Well, let's look at the data in section 4, the proof, the Globus case study. Let's actually look at the exact metrics here. Without AI, personalization is naturally pretty limited, and the teacher burden for things like materials and grading is incredibly high. But with AI, by offloading that heavy grading and material prep, personalization becomes highly optimized. Plus, it unlocks entirely new multimodal creative paradigms. Offloading the administrative weight, literally, directly enhances instructional quality. Let me give you a concrete example from Globus Professional University. They used Progo's AI speaking tests to completely handle student assessment. And the result? A statistically significant jump in conversational fluency, taking students from a B1 to a B2 level.
Because they were freed from rote grading, teachers could focus entirely on active listening and empathetic, socio-constructivist dialogue. The AI handled the data, and the humans handled the connection. It's a real game changer.
So, to wrap this all up, AI does not replace us. Instead, it forces a massive reevaluation of human uniqueness. By leaving the heavy data processing to algorithms, educators can really lean into empathy, moral judgment, and deep connection. And that is what's going to propel massive educational growth. So I'll leave you with this final thought. As AI inevitably automates the surface of education, how will you cultivate the deep, invisible foundations of your own humanity? The future definitely belongs to those who wield these instruments while remaining fiercely, unapologetically human. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer today. See you next time.